say ah. Better yet, don't. So, well, me droogies, it's Bill, and you are watching Bill's Box of Sound, and this is part 2, probably the final, on what will be my views on the 2023 Record Store Day list. And I'm going to finish my views on the United States list, and then we're going to take a look at the UK list, because I saw some things on there that are quite interesting. Some things that I want but can't get because I'm stuck here in Cleveland, Ohio. So let's go back to the list and see what we got here. Let's talk about this John Lennon box. Yeah, this is a repress. It's the Give Me Some Truth or Gimme Some Truth box. Only now it's repressed on 10-inch white vinyl, a 9-record box. This one ain't going to be cheap, folks. And why do it again? Beatle completists are probably banging your head against the wall, but what are you gonna do, huh? Next thing, a vinyl first. This wonderful little album here by Poe called Hello. She only had 2 albums before her career was kind of cut short by record company politics. But this is her debut album, had 3 really good radio hits. Hello, Trigger Happy Jack, aka Drive By a Go-Go, and Angry Johnny. But the whole album's good, and I was really happy to see this coming out on vinyl. So that's going to be fun. Here's another first time on vinyl. It's The Residents with a curious little album called Our Finest Flowers. Now, this is the original version that came out on CD back in, I believe, 1992. And the explanation for this album was that The Residents had been around for 20 years. And instead of putting out a greatest hits record, that they would make new songs that were based on their old songs. And there's also a made-up story in here that says they were making a list of their most popular songs, and the resident that was making the list threw up on the list, and they washed it off, and then ripped up the piece of paper and threw it all about the room. And as they put together the little pieces, they were mashing up different song titles, and the end result is song lyrics from one or more songs being mashed up with the music from another song. And I have to admit that this album, Our Finest Flowers, this is probably the Residents album that made me lose a lot of my love for them, because this is all very machiney, and it's just not the right kind of weird that I'd come to know and love from the Residents. The last album that I really, really liked by them was God in Three Persons. After that, it's more or less archaeology for me. It's going back into the old ones. I'm not even buying the preserved versions because I love the original albums that much, and I don't think that there's that much more archival stuff. I mean, they put out the Baby Sex album, they put out the Warner Brothers album, and they put out an archival of the Santa Dog stuff, all the Christmas music. But the newer stuff, it's just not hitting me right in my weirdness. And you know, I like a lot of weird music. But if you're interested and you like this, it's coming out on vinyl for the first time this Record Store Day, April 22nd. Here's a weird one that only had a very, very limited release on vinyl when it first came out. Crispin Glover or as he's credited on here, Crispin Hellion Glover. The name of the album is The Big Problem, and it is the actor, Crispin Glover, being a spoken word artist, more or less, and the duo of Barnes and Barnes, most popular for fish heads, and another really weird group, are providing the production and the instruments for this. This originally came out in 1989. And the full title of the album is The Big Problem Does Not Equal the Solution. The Solution Equals Let It Be. Now it's coming out on light blue vinyl with crimson clowny clown spatter vinyl. The description says it's limited to 2,000 copies, but the same description also says it's limited to 1,700 copies. It's coming from Real Gone Music, and this is the very first time it's been put on vinyl, to correct myself from a little earlier. And this is some borderline irritating stuff, but if you like it weird, you may love this one. There's a Ramones release. It's called the New York Mixes of the album Pleasant Dreams. That was the album that was produced by Graham Gouldman of 10cc fame. And these are the mixes that Graham Gouldman did. These were not the original releases that were on the album. The pressing is limited to 7,500 copies, and the cover art is different than the original. So good to see this Ramones stuff coming out. There's another Rolling Stones album being re-released on Record Store Day. It's Beggar's Banquet with the original toilet cover. And instead of this being a extremely overpriced version that really doesn't seem to have anything special with it, this one's coming on a swirl vinyl of gray, blue, black, and white to correspond with the lyrics of one of the songs. And how many are they putting out of this one? There's 9,000 of these coming out, so if you want one, you'll probably be able to get it. Here comes an interesting reissue that could have been more interesting. Now, a lot of you will remember that on Black Friday last year, there was a release of Todd Rundgren's Something Anything album, which was the 2-record album being released on a 4-record set of colored vinyl, mastered at 45 RPM. Now, I didn't buy it because my original copy sounds unbelievable, and I don't want to spend that 80 bucks or however much it costs. But from those who bought it and those who reviewed it, I heard that it sounded really good. Now, to follow up on that, for this Record Store Day, they're coming out with Todd Rundgren, A Wizard, A True Star. 50th anniversary. This was the first album I had ever listened to by Todd Rundgren. And man, what an album it is. Got my original die-cut cover and really freaky inner sleeve. And this album originally came with a postcard which had you fill your name and address on it, send it back to Todd, and he would put your name on a poster that would be on the next Todd album, which was called Todd. And it was a big poster, kind of like a mosaic of him, and if you looked really close, you could see a bunch of little names in very, very, very small type. My name was not put on that poster because I didn't mail mine in time. But let's talk about this reissue. How many copies are they coming out of it? They're coming out with 5,500 copies of this. Kind of limited. And I believe it's on colored vinyl. Let's see. Yes. Multicolored, cloudy, psychedelic effect vinyl. But here's the thing that I'm not too happy about. This album is very long. It's almost 30 minutes a side. One of the longer albums that you can get. And as a result, the sound quality is, the sound level is lower and the sound quality hurts a little bit. It would have made a lot more sense to put this one out as a 2-record set, 45 RPM. I think somebody else put out a 2-record version of this that for some reason I was not able to get. If it's still available, I'd like to find it. But I'd like to say it's opportunity missed for this album. They should have put it out as a 2-record 45 RPM instead of a 33 RPM. The sound quality is probably not going to be as good as it can be. And speaking of Todd Rundgren, there are reissues from Sparks, their very first 2 albums, one of which Todd Rundgren produced. That would be this one, the very first Sparks album, that was also known as Half Nelson with a different cover. That's when the group was called Half Nelson. And also their second album, A Woofer in Tweeter's Clothing. Both good albums, their very first albums, and they've got a brand new album coming out in May, which they're teasing now, and they have returned to Island Records. These 2 were on the Bearsville label. So those who have been catching up on Sparks and want to fortify your collection with some good vinyl, you can get their very first 2 albums on Record Store Day. Ringo Starr's Stop and Smell the Roses is coming out with a reissue on Record Store Day. Why? I don't know. This album didn't sell when it first came out. I don't think it's going to sell now, especially at these high inflated prices. So if you really got to get it, and you got to get it now, go ahead and buy it on Record Store Day. But I have a feeling that you'll see it again at a much lower price when they can't move these copies. Here's an album from the Temptations. Another one of these Motown reissues. This album is All Directions. And this is a pretty good album. But the best thing about this record is this is the original album that had a very popular song that won a Grammy Award, Papa Was a Rolling Stone. Now, the popular version of this is the single version. It's about 7 minutes long. This version, the original, even longer. Goes on for 11 minutes. Now, Robert Fithen reported this, and he said that this version's a bit too long for him. For me, no. I love this version. And a nice fresh copy would be nice, but I have found a nice original in pretty good shape. So I'm going to stick with this version for myself, but you can get it. I would talk about the Taylor Swift release that's coming for Record Store Day, which is Folklore, the Long Pond Studio Sessions. But if you're a Taylor Swift fan, you already know about this, so I'm not even going to talk about it. But I will talk about this T-Rex compilation that was originally released in Japan called Rockin' and Rollin'. Yeah, this greatest hits compilation of T-Rex was released in Japan 50 years ago. It's going to be re-released on 140-gram pink vinyl. And it will have its original Japanese sleeve plus brand new inner sleeves featuring the Japanese picture sleeves of the singles. There are 18 songs on this T-Rex compilation. This looks pretty interesting. I may divulge myself in a copy of this. There's a reissue of the Sano and Boris album, Alter. This is a stoner drone superstar masterpiece. That's about all I can say. If you know about Sano and you know about Boris, then you know what I'm talking about, and you will probably want this album. Van Halen fans will be thrilled to know that the live album Right Here, Right Now, this is from the Sammy days, is coming out as a 4-record boxed set for Record Store Day. Me, I'm not that excited about it because I'm not that big of a Van Halen fan, but you Van Halen fans, you'll eat it up with a spoon or a fork, but you will have to put on a bib beforehand. Real Gone Music is putting out a compilation of the early singles by the Donnas, called Early Singles 1995 to 1999. And from what I hear, a lot of work went into restoring the music on this. I may pick this up. There's only 1,500 of these picked up that were made, that is. And it says that it's an RSD first release, which says that they may be re-releasing it in general release later on, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. Anagram Music is putting out a re-release of the last Muddy Waters album on Chess called the Woodstock album. This was released in 1975. Features Garth Hudson and Paul Butterfield. Like I said, it was the last album that he did for Chess, and it's very much the album that Muddy wanted to make. I've listened to it online. This is real good stuff. And it's coming out on the, what's the name of that label again? Anagram Music, 3,000 copies. I'm going to be gunning for this because this is some mighty fine blues. Now, as I said before, recordstoreday.com is the best place to take a look at these lists, and keep on checking back between now and Record Store Day because they do make changes to the list. Sometimes they make deletions and sometimes they add things on. There's a lot of good jazz coming out aside from the stuff I've talked about in the first video. There's Chet Baker stuff, Charlie Parker, a 1983 Dizzy Gillespie release, yet another Sun Ra release, Walter Bishop Jr., an Art Blakey release, stuff all over the map. So check it out. Now, just for the fun of it, I looked up the Record Store Day list for the UK and found some interesting releases that are being put out exclusively in the UK and not in the United States. Some of these I'm interested in. Some of them are just plain, I don't know. Let's first talk about Bill Nelson's Red Noise live at the Montfort Hall in Leicester, 1979. Oh, I would love to get a copy of that. I have a feeling that that's excerpted from the multi-CD set for Bill Nelson's Red Noise that recently came out in the UK. There's also a reissue of Black Sabbath's Never Say Die that's coming out in the UK and not in the US. There's a very unusual album called Elvis is Black. Yes, it is a 3-record compilation of songs Elvis Presley sang that were written and originally performed by black artists. I don't know how active cancel culture is in England, but I guess that they are not beyond putting out a compilation called Elvis is Black, a play on the old Elvis is Back thing. There's a very interesting synth album called Mesmerized by Experimental Audio Research. Came out in 1994. I listened to this online. It's pretty cool. I would love to get a copy of this. There's also a re-release of Half Japanese, Jad Fair's group, and The Band That Would Be King, coming out in the UK, but not in the US. And this is some weird stuff, wonderfully weird stuff. There's also a Mike Oldfield album called Opus 1. I read the description, and it is the original demo tape of what was to become Tubular Bells. I'm very interested in this. But it's not coming out in the US. It's only coming out in the UK. There's also some very interesting reissues that are coming out for UK Record Store Day. One of which, well, I'll show you these 3. Landscape, From the Tea Rooms of Mars to the Hellholes of Uranus. This is a wonderful little electro-pop album. There was a minor hit in the US called Einstein A Go-Go, but in my opinion, that's one of the more bland songs. The rest of this album is fantastic. I mean, we got Shake the West Awake, Norman Bates, what else? Alpine Tragedy, New Religion, Face of the 80s. Oh, I love this album. I've also got their follow-up album, Manhattan Boogie Woogie. This was on RCA back in the day. Psychedelic blues band from the UK Groundhogs, Crosscut Saw. That's being re-released for Record Store Day. And I can understand why they're not releasing this in the US, because this was not very popular. I mean, initially, this album charted a little bit higher than it did in the UK, but then fell quickly. And I saw the tour for this band. It really was mismatched. I mean, you know, you've heard of teaming up super guitar players like, you know, Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck in the Yardbirds. And then there's Steve Howe from Yes and Steve Hackett from Genesis. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. They had this album called GTR. Very interesting, like I said. This is coming out for re-release for Record Store Day in the UK. So that is my take of not only the US, but the UK Record Store Day list. And I hope that if you're interested in it, you get what you want. And I want to thank you for watching this video. If you like what you see, please hit the like button for this video. And if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. And you know what? I am like this close to getting 5,000 subscribers. It'd be really nice if I could hit 5,000 subscribers, and I'd like to help you folks make me do it. Yeah, this is my little hidden contest. I'm going to start a contest. You need to make a video, and you need to post it on YouTube, and you have to make a comment to this video, which will give me the link to that video that you make. And you have to be a subscriber in order to qualify for this, because what can I say? I'm greedy and I want those 5,000 subscribers. Actually, I don't care that much, but I think it would be really nice to get 5,000 subscribers after almost 17 years of making videos on YouTube. Now, there will be one prize winner. And what will this prize winner get? Well, since a lot of the people that watch this channel are big Frank Zappa fans, I've got something worthwhile for you. How about one of the 50th anniversary colored vinyl releases of Frank Zappa's Waka Jawaka, as well as the Grand Wazoo. Courtesy of Universal, I will send you both of these records. Only one person will win, and it will be determined by a random drawing. Now, the deadline for this contest is the end of the day on April the 22nd, which happens to be Record Store Day. And what is the video supposed to be about, you may ask? This is what it's supposed to be about. If I can just jumble my words together and make sense. I want to know which one specific Record Store Day release you want. It could be from this Record Store Day. It could be from a past Record Store Day that you wanted to get it and you never were able to get it. Or if there is a album that you would like to see released for Record Store Day that you would personally want, I want to know about that as well. Now, I only want you to talk about one title. If you talk about more than one title, you will be disqualified. Make that video of the one Record Store Day release that you would like to have, and post it by the end of the day on Record Store Day, April 22nd, 2023. And in the follow-up week or so to that, I will pick a winner and send you these two, which I think are probably out of print by now, but they are limited edition, colored vinyl, Grand Wazoo, and Waka Jawaka by Frank Zappa, which includes those lovely little metallicized lithographs, or that's what they're calling them anyway. That's a lithograph. So that is everything. Had a great time. Hope you did too. Love you, mean it, blah, blah, blah. And thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Go listen to some music.